Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, battle at the level of the Senate as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned. Some SDF senators wanted the crisis to be included on the agenda, but then met with stiff resistance from some MPs or senators of the CPDM. We shall be bringing to the atmosphere that reigned yesterday at the level of the Senate in this edition of the news. Also ahead, we told you about a 3-year-old nursery, one pupil here in the country's economic capital, Douala, that was declared missing several days ago. The child returned to the parents. That was yesterday. Those are headlines. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. Let's begin right away in the nation's capital. As we announced a few seconds ago, at the level of the Senate, there was a quarrel, a violent one, of course, between Senator Jean Sumelo of the Social Democratic Front and Samuel Obam Assam of the ruling CPDM at the level of the Senate. That was yesterday. The two senators from the SDF and CPDM, respectively, were ordered by the Senate President to settle their differences on the subject concerning the Anglophone crisis and work with the government towards resolving the current socio-political tension rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon. Innocent Aze takes us back to the Senate in the following report.
Rarely has tension gripped the Senate plenary session like that of November 5, 2017, at the point of bringing the Senate President, Marcel Nyat Njifenji, to give warnings to two members of the upper house of Parliament. We all make a nation. We must comport ourselves in the midst of a situation like the Anglophone crisis in ensuring it is resolved. This message was directed mainly to Senator Jean Sumelo of the Social Democratic Front and Senator Samuel Obam Assam of the CPDM, whose differences on the subjects of how events are unfolding in the two Anglophone regions sparked tension which could intoxicate the upper house. Echoes of the tension between both SDF and CPDM senators infiltrated the eardrums of Marcel Njifenji, who ordered the two not to pour more fuel into the fire of the Anglophone crisis. Before summoning them this Wednesday to get their differing points of view, the Senate President told them it is not time to aggravate the Anglophone crisis, but join forces with government and every other Cameroonian to redress the long-lasting issue which has been breaking the nation. The plenary session that lasted 10 minutes also saw the examination of 4 bills from the National Assembly. The texts were received in the presence of the SDF senator, with the upper house boss reiterating the activity of the opposition party to disrupt works at the National Assembly was not done at the right moment. According to the SDF senator, his CPDM colleagues behave as if the need to look for lasting solutions to the Anglophone crisis was solely the preoccupation and responsibility of the SDF. Meanwhile, it concerns the entire nation.
And Senator Jean Sumelo of the Social Democratic Front and that of the CPDM were convened, or they were supposed to appear before the Senate President Marcel Nyat Njifenji, that was today in the nation's capital, to answer questions on the quarrel that ensued yesterday over the Anglophone crisis. Both of them were summoned, that was yesterday, after a violent quarrel, as Innocent as indicated in the report that just ended, on what the SDF senators qualified as poor management of the Anglophone crisis by the government of the country. This happened on the sidelines of the plenary session in Parliament that was yesterday, which unfolded unperturbed. SDF MPs, it should be noted, did not stage a protest as was announced earlier yesterday. Chiefs in the northwest region of Cameroon have praised the manner in which the head of state is handling the current socio-political tension rocking the two English-speaking regions of the country. They called on the English-speaking population to be calm, vigilant, and assist government's efforts in addressing the Anglophone problem, which they say has crippled the economy for more than 1 year now. In a 4-page document signed by over 50 members of NOWEFO during the General Assembly, which took place in Cambe, the chief criticized the killings of elements of the defense forces in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. The chiefs urged the population to help the government investigate those behind the killings of the soldiers. It is not known whether the other faction of NOWEFO, led by Fonshe Barnabas of Mbot, was a signatory to the release. The squabble in the Northwest Funds Union is not new to Cameroonians. Just to note as well that the French ambassador to Cameroon and the head of the European Union delegation in the country have condemned killings of soldiers in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. The French diplomat, it should be noted, was received in audience by the President of the Republic of Cameroon. So that was today. We talked about the 3-year-old nursery school pupil that disappeared a few days ago in the Dokpasi neighborhood Douala-Free subdivision that has been reunited with her mother. The little girl was in keeping of an 18-year-old lady who claimed to be innocent and was used by the boyfriend who said that was the father of the child. We obviously will be coming back to that report before the end of this newscast. But before we talk about that, let us take a look at the situation of insecurity in the country's economic capital. Inhabitants of Makepe Maturity neighborhood in the Douala 5 subdivision say that their area needs to be secured by the local administration. The high rate of insecurity in the locality has caused several business operations in the neighborhood to be scared after stores, several business persons to be scared rather after stores were broken into by some yet to be identified individuals. Simanjikan Gabriel has the details.
Petty business operators in the Makepe Maturity neighborhood are passing through hard times. Within a week, over 10 stores have been burgled by some unknown men. At this medicine store, the owner, Mrs. Mirabel Gay, is struggling to refill her store after it was visited by unknown men and its content taken away. Not very far from her, at a hairdressing salon, Mrs. Clementine Gumesia has now changed her business to sell bread, beans and eggs to generate finance for her to re-equip her salon that was visited by the men of the underworld recently. Apart from that, she has to reimburse the sum of 300,000 francs CFA borrowed from a microfinance institution to boost her business. Another victim is Breeze, who is a welder by profession. His workshop was broken into and several items worth 600,000 francs CFA was taken away. All of this, coupled with other cases not mentioned, has turned the Makepe Maturity neighborhood a risky zone for both the business operators and its inhabitants. Thus, a need for the reinforcement of security as we move into the end of year festivities.
We now talk about the case of the missing child in the village neighborhood here in the city of Douala, which the child was reunited with her mother. That was yesterday. The little girl was in the keeping of an 18-year-old lady who claimed to be innocent and was used by her boyfriend who claimed to be the father of the child. Details with Innocent Aze.
Itaye Ambamba Abigail, 3-year-old, is back to her mother, Gabejang Itaye Stephanie Law, after she went missing November 29, 2017. Her return Tuesday reanimated joy within the mother, who has been in distress. She screamed, "Thank God for enabling her find her daughter." Little Abigail was returned to her by this 18-year-old lady. She recounts at the Gendarmerie Brigade in Bonanjo that her boyfriend, who claims to be the father of the 3-year-old girl, November 29, brought Abigail to her house from school. He asked her to take care of Abigail because he had problems with his wife. The presumed father of the child only returned on Thursday, November 30, but still asked the girl, who claims to be innocent, to keep the child, which she did, ignorant of what was happening. She never knew she was getting into trouble. She also says she has never learned of the search of Abigail. To the mother, Abigail has only one father, who is her present husband, a marine by profession. She claims she has never picked up quarrel with anyone over the child. To her, anyone else who claims to be Abigail's father should present himself. She does not know who this other father is. Abigail finally returned home with her mother, while the innocent girl was freed as Colonel Mvunzi concluded she was just used by the suspect, who is yet to present himself and claim Abigail is his daughter.
And the purported father of the 3-year-old child is said to have disappeared into the thin air and is nowhere to be found. We are following up development on that story. In the report that is going to be coming up next, we are going to be showing you the deplorable state of the Lum-Yabasi stretch of route in the littoral region of the country. Commuters are urging public authorities to save them from the nightmare of going through that stretch of route, as Babla Jonathan tells us in the following story.
Commuters go through thick and thin on the Lum-Yabasi stretch of road in the littoral region of Cameroon. It is a perilous and dangerous journey. In the rainy season, motorbikes and trucks get stuck in the mud. This was a large road, but it is like a path today. It has been neglected. My farm is just behind me, and I've been here since 1975. And at the time, public works technicians were coming from Konsaba every year, from October, to rehabilitate the road. Even cabs were plying the Lum-Yabasi road, but today you need 4-wheel drive vehicles to go through. Commuters are permanently at the risk of accidents all along the road, but more so at the level of this bridge.
Le pont met en danger
described as a death trap.
aux cyclistes qui s'aventurent de ce côté.
I have 2 friends whose legs are broken today, and they can no longer fend for their families because of this road. Every day we have breakdowns. We spend a lot on this problem. Because of the deplorable state of the road, cost of transportation of persons and goods has increased. From Lum to Yabasi now costs 10,000 francs CFA per head, whereas it was normally a journey of 4,000 francs CFA, or at most 5,000 francs CFA in the late hours of the night. These are bags of palm fruits. I pay 3,000 to 4,000 francs CFA a bag, and the distance is not even up to 3 kilometers. Many farmers are now unable to transport a good proportion of their farm products to the market. Plantains get rotten in the farm because of transportation difficulties. I harvest about 10 tons of plantains every month, but a good proportion get bad in the farm. Commuters decry what they call fake promises of politicians concerning the rehabilitation of the road. We have the same cry and the same promises that are never fulfilled.
De Bonquin à Bamombe, c'est une route départementale.
This official of the Yabasi Council says it is a divisional road under the responsibility of the Camp Divisional Delegation of Public Works. He adds that the council does not have the capacity to rehabilitate the road entirely. The Camp Divisional Delegation of Public Works is yet to react.
The situation of roots in that part of the littoral region is similar situation in several parts of Cameroon. Now, 90% of persons suffering from cancer of the lungs are cigarette smokers, and over 80% of indirect smokers are equally affected. The facts and figures were made public in a press conference that was organized in a Bolova South region of the country by the Coalition Against Tobacco that took place in the South region. Let's have the details with Katrin Kone.
Tobacco smoking remains a serious threat to global health, killing millions of people and causing excessive healthcare costs and lost productivity. The fight against tobacco in Cameroon was the focus of a meeting with Cameroon Coalition Against Tobacco and media men and women in the Bolova South region of Cameroon.
La consommation de tabac est responsable de 90% des cancers pulmonaires.
To this man, 90% of people suffering of cancer of the lung are cigarette smokers. He added that many are willing to spend on cigarette than invest. The aim of this meeting is to intensify campaigns on the negative impact of tobacco while waiting for an anti-tobacco law to be enacted. While efforts are put in place to create awareness of the danger in cigarette, consumers contradict the idea of cigarette killing millions of persons. To this man, smoking broadened his mind. He has been smoking 25 years without any health problem. To this other, cigarette gives him energy to work. It was equally discovered in the meeting that Cameroon is one of the countries where tobacco activities are not thoroughly controlled, with its rampant use especially amongst youth. It should be noted that numerous studies have been published that substantiate the strong association of tobacco use with variety of adverse human health effects, most prominently with cancer and cardiovascular diseases. Cigarette smoking is regarded as a major risk factor in the development of lung cancer.
And a music icon in France that has been battling with lung cancer for years, Johnny Hallyday, finally gave up the ghost. That was yesterday night. He died at the age of 74, as we hear with Orange News.
He was both loved and loathed in France, flattered and caricatured in seemingly equal measure. Singer Johnny Hallyday will be remembered as a star of stage and studio. His career was marked by his songs and concerts, but also his personality. While in the Anglophone world, he was nicknamed the biggest rock star you've never heard of. In his native France, he was one of the most scrutinized and publicized figures in recent history, a popular man that even politicians liked to woo. Hallyday accepted endorsing conservatives for decades and drawing scorn from the left. Born Jean-Philippe Smet in Paris in 1943, Hallyday was just 17 when he made his first splash on the French music scene. He went on to sell over 100 million records. In truth, Hallyday stunned sleepy 1960s France with his long hair and Elvis on stage moves. He stole freely from other artists with cover versions galore, for which he got the best session musicians and producers available. For his record company, he was a gold mine. Blessed with a great voice, he introduced rock and roll culture to France, ensuring his iconic status. Hallyday leaves behind his fourth wife, Laetitia Boudou, 4 children, and a legion of adoring fans who should ensure the legend will never die.
And we continue with news out of the country. 2 men are facing terrorism charges of an alleged plan to attack the UK Prime Minister Theresa May. They appeared in court, that was few hours ago. Details once again with Orange News.
2 men are due to appear before Westminster magistrates over an alleged plot to kill the British Prime Minister Theresa May. Police and security services believe the pair planned to launch a bomb at Downing Street and then kill May in the ensuing chaos. The men were arrested last week and have been charged with terrorism offences. It comes a day after a government security review found that the Manchester Arena bombing in May could have been prevented if intelligence received was acted upon. But the head of MI5, Britain's security service, also revealed that 9 alleged Islamist terror plots have been foiled since March.
The report there on the 2 men facing terrorism charges over plans to kill the British Prime Minister Theresa May brings us to the end of this edition of the news on Equinoxe Television. Viewers, so thank you so much for joining us as usual. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.